Hi everyone, happy 2025. I know this is late, but this is going to be my 2024 reading recap, all of the books that I read in 2024. So I made a little slideshow. So I'm going to go through all the books that I read from worst to best. I'm going to try to be as quick as I can with it. I thought first I could just go over my rating system. If you feel like you have a really good rating system, I would love to know because I feel like mine is a little bit inconsistent. So first of all, DNF is a did not finish. I read a lot of samples on my Kindle and ones that I'm not into, I don't know if I would technically class them as a DNF or just like a book that I don't end up buying. 1 and 2 stars, I really try not to rate that low. I don't know why I feel bad rating a book that low. So usually I try and start at the 3-star mark. I think there might be 1 or 2 books that I've ever rated 2 stars and they were just books that I really just didn't enjoy. But I don't know, I feel bad. Not that the author would ever see my rating like on Goodreads, but that's where my mind goes. I just feel bad rating a book that low. So 3 stars is fine, an easy read, perhaps a little underwhelming. So a 3-star like romance for me is just like, it was good. Like it was an easy read, kind of when you just put on maybe like a cheesy rom-com movie and it's like, it's just okay. It was fine. A 3-star in like a mystery thriller category is more underwhelming, like I was let down by the ending or like the mystery. I had like higher expectations for it. A 4-star book I really enjoyed, but I just have a few notes. So it's like loved it, but there was like maybe a few things that I didn't like. And then a 5-star obviously is I love it, have no notes, chef's kiss. But yes, if you have a really good rating system, even if it includes 1 or 2 stars, please let me know. A quick overview of 2024. I read 15 romances, 8 mystery thrillers, 1 young adult, 1 historical fiction, 3 like fantasy dystopian, and then 8 audible. All right, let's start with my DNF of the year. There is just 1 book, and it was one that my friends and I had as one of our book club picks, which we had heard a lot about. I think they had heard a lot about on TikTok, and it was Icebreaker. I didn't finish the sample of this on my Kindle, and I don't think any of us ended up finishing it, but yeah, I think I got maybe a chapter or 2 in and I could just tell this was not like the type of book for me. And then we jumped to 3 stars. So I only have 1 3-star book and it was The Guest List. This one really took me by surprise. I had heard a lot of hype around this book and I was expecting to love it a lot more. I listened to it as an audiobook and I'm not sure if that, like maybe if I'm too distracted when I'm listening to it, but I felt like it was really, really long. Moving on to 3.5 stars. We have number 27 is The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell, and 26 is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. I went on a bit of a Lisa Jewell kick because I started with 2 really good Lisa Jewell books. This one specifically, The Family Upstairs, had a lot of different characters with their own plots and it was kind of hard for me to keep track of, but these were also audiobooks too. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but still enjoyable, just not my favorite. Next, number 25 is Never Fall for Your Fiance. So this was a pick by my husband. This was my first historical fiction book. For some reason, I was assuming that I wouldn't get into it or really like it. It did take me a little bit to kind of get into it and get to know the characters a bit more, but then once it was like all set up, I really did enjoy it. And so I was pleasantly surprised by that one. And this is a fake engagement book. Number 24 is Love and Other Words. This one I originally rated 4 stars, but just reflecting on all of my reads for the year, I ended up bumping it down to a 3.5 because it didn't really fit with the rest of my 4-star books. I still did really enjoy it though. It goes back and forth between past tense and present tense, and I just found that I was trying to skim and kind of like skip through the past chapters to get to the present, and I just wanted to like read what was going to happen and read the romance, but the past chapters are very important to the storyline. It ended up being a good book. I still enjoyed it, and this was another one that I did with my friends as a book club pick, so we went and got coffee and like chatted about it. We all enjoyed it. Number 23 is Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. I really liked the premise of this book. So for one reason or another, either the bride or the groom can't go through with the wedding, and so instead of calling off the wedding, on the wedding day they have someone object basically. I just thought it was an interesting storyline. Number 22, I have The Perfect Couple by Elin Hildebrand. Netflix turned this into like a little series and I did enjoy the series. I felt like when I read the book I was a little bit let down at the ending, like I felt like there was going to be more to the mystery. This takes place in Nantucket and there is a murder like the day before or the day of a wedding. And so that is kind of what the book is about. Definitely made me want to take a trip to Nantucket. It sounds so beautiful. Okay, number 21 is Funny You Should Ask. This was another storyline that I really like. It also goes from past tense to present tense and is about a journalist who makes a piece on this famous actor, and it kind of goes viral and blows both of their careers up. And so it just goes back and forth between 10 years in the past when the article was like being written, and then 10 years in the future when they kind of reunite. Number 20 is The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. This was the last book of the year that I read, and it is about a famous football player and his girl best friend, and they've been best friends for years but secretly have feelings for each other, but they both think that the other person would never have feelings for them. Okay, I have one 3.75, which was Another Love Story. I loved the premise of this book, and I loved the magic. Basically, this girl finds herself in the town of her favorite book series. The reason I rated it a 3.75 is because towards the end something happened that it just made me really sad. 3.75 still good. I still really enjoyed it. I really like this author and want to read more. I have one at 3.9 stars, and it was Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and I feel like this book is loved by so many people. I was really excited to finally read an Emily Henry book, and I really liked her writing. I definitely plan to read more of her books this year. I think the love story was not the most believable for me, and that's why I rated it not a 4 or 5 star. Okay, now for the 4 star, number 17 is The Holiday Switch, which was the first book of the year that I had finished. It was a Christmas read from December that I didn't finish, and it's a young adult little cute Christmas book. Basically, this really famous movie is based in this town, and it kind of all revolves around an inn, and both the main characters work at this store that's at the inn. I did enjoy it. If you're looking for a like holiday read at the end of the year, this was like just nice and wholesome. Number 16 was one of the non-fiction books I read, and it is Crazy Love by Frances Chan. This really goes over the importance of like loving people like crazy and helping people like crazy, and it was just a really encouraging read for me. It was another pick from Gabriel. Number 15 is another Ashley Poston book, The 7-Year Slip. I loved this book. This is about time travel, and yeah, there's a 7-year difference between, I guess, the time travel. They meet in an apartment, and I just loved the story. So far, both of the books that I've read by her just have such a cool, like magical element to it that's really fun to read. So I definitely want to read more. Number 14 is Summer Romance. This one I rated 4 stars, but I don't really remember it. I read it right after I had a baby, and so I was just in that like postpartum, foggy, no sleep, and I genuinely cannot really remember what this book is about, but I did really enjoy it. It's about a mum who meets someone while walking her dog, and it's actually coming back to me now. It was a good book, good rom-com. Number 13 is The Paris Apartment. So this was the first book by Lucy Foley that I read, and this was another book club book that me and my friends did. Basically, this girl goes to Paris to stay with her brother. Basically, when she gets to his apartment in Paris, he is missing, and everyone in the apartment complex is kind of strange, and they all have their own stories. So you're just going through that and trying to figure out who was involved and where the brother is and what happened and all of that. I really enjoyed it. That is why I read The Guest List, but I definitely liked this one better. Okay, next up, number 12 is The One. So this is part of the Selection series, and number 11 is also The Elite, which is the second book in the series. The One is the third book in the series. I rated these both 4 stars. I loved this series. So this was the first like fantasy dystopian series that I've read, and I just loved like falling into a new world, and it definitely made me want to read more dystopian books this year or dive more into fantasy. So if there is a series or a book that you think I would really like, please let me know, because I don't really know where to start other than I know a lot of people love Fourth Wing. But yes, this series is kind of like The Bachelor mixed with Cinderella, but in a completely like dystopian world, and I just loved it so much. When my mother-in-law was in town right after I had a baby, she read this series too and loved it, and the reason I read it was because it's one of my best friend's favorite series ever. So if you haven't read the Selection series, I definitely recommend. All right, moving on to my 4.5 stars. At number 10, we have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and number 9, Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. So these are both part of the Part of Your World series. Part of Your World is book 1, Yours Truly is book 2, and then there is a third book. And I really loved this series. These were the first books by her that I have ever read, and I really loved her writing. I remember like being so excited to go to bed to read these books. So each book in the series is about a different couple, but they all, like all the stories intertwine. I unintentionally read these out of order. I read book 2, 1, then 3. It didn't matter too much. I do wish I read it in order, especially for the third book. At number 8, we have Rock, Paper, Scissors, which is a mystery thriller where I believe the wife like won an Airbnb situation in Scotland, and as soon as they get there, like stuff is fishy like straight away, and I loved reading this book. It has short chapters, which I also really love. At number 7 is Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. So this was the second Lisa Jewell book that I read. This is from the point of view of a mum and her daughter goes missing. I listened to it as an audible and I really enjoyed the audiobook of it. At number 6 is None of This Is True, also by Lisa Jewell. This one was my first Lisa Jewell book. Such a good audiobook. Her books are definitely dark and a little bit twisted, but I really enjoyed the mystery and like following along, like trying to figure out what was going on. The reason I didn't rate this a 5-star, I'm pretty sure, is because this one ends open-ended, kind of like you decide what the ending is. It doesn't like straight out tell you. I don't know, I remember finishing it just being like, I want to know like what is the truth. At 4.75, number 5 is Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. This was also another new author for me this year who I absolutely loved. Great, easy to read rom-com. Now for my 5-star reads, at number 4 we have Take Back Your Family by Jess and Bethke. This was another book Gabe recommended to me that he has read and loved and recommended to a lot of his friends. Written by one of his friends, Jeff Bethke, who is a great author. I read this while also going along with the Audible, and he is so good at doing audiobooks. It was so natural and just felt like I was listening to a podcast, really. I highlighted a lot in here. It really kind of goes over the importance of your family being a team, especially as they get older, like incorporating them in what you do for work, and like it's all like part of the family's team and mission. Number 3 was The Selection, which was the series I was talking about earlier. I just loved this first book. Yeah, wish I could read it again for the first time. It was so good. At number 2 we have Just for the Summer, which is the third book in the Part of Your World series. I loved this book. I thought that the romance was really believable. It basically starts with this Reddit post that goes viral that this girl finds and reads. They both think they have this curse where they're like, when they break up with someone, their ex marries the next person, and so they meet and like bond over that, and that's where it starts. But yeah, I just loved the romance. My number 1 book was The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This is also one that I read early on in the year. My first Catherine Center book, and is basically about a famous actor and a female bodyguard, and she kind of has to like follow and protect him. And I just loved it. I did not want this book to end. Like I just loved the world. I loved them. I just loved it so much. I'm gonna finish with a few quick book awards. So my book of the year was obviously The Bodyguard. A book that was overhyped was The Guest List, unfortunately. I don't know if I reread it and read the physical copy if I would like it better. I think even my sister read it and really enjoyed it, so I don't know, maybe I need to revisit this one. The prettiest cover I awarded to A Novel Love Story, close second to Just for the Summer. I think they're both such pretty book covers. Most swoon-worthy, I went with The Bodyguard because I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I really need to read more Catherine Center this year because the 2 that I read, I did really enjoy. Most likely to reread, I chose The Perfect Couple. With what I was saying about enjoying the Netflix show, I would like to reread it because I feel like I might enjoy it a bit more. I also listened to it as an audiobook, and I think I may enjoy reading it, the physical copy. I'm curious to see what was different from the show to the book because quite a few months had passed in between reading the book and watching the show, so I couldn't quite remember like all of the stuff that was different. But yeah, I'm curious if I reread it, if I will like it more. A book that surprised me, I gave to The Selection just because this was kind of a new genre for me. I really wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, and definitely makes me want to get into another like fantasy or dystopian series this year. The best audiobook I gave to None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. It was so believable. The actors were so good. I remember starting the audiobook and messaging my friend and being like, this sounds like a movie. Like it sounded like I was watching a Netflix series. The best new to me author I gave to Ashley Poston. Catherine Center would probably be my second pick just because of how much I loved The Bodyguard. But I loved the concepts of Ashley's books, the magic in them, and I just loved it, so I definitely plan to read more of her books this year. The book I recommended the most was The Bodyguard. I recommended it to so many of my friends. who also loved it. My most read author of the year was Lisa Jewell, because once I had started those really highly rated audiobooks, I was just like, I need to keep going. I definitely went on a bit of a Lisa Jewell kick. I was pregnant at the time and driving to a lot of like midwife appointments, so I would always put on Lisa Jewell when I was driving to my appointments. Last but not least, I have a few book goals for the year. 2024, that's definitely meant to be 2025. I'm still in that part of February where it's like weird to write the new year. Did I say January or February? You know what I mean. Okay, number one is don't rush, enjoy it. I feel like this year even for myself, I have a smaller reading goal. I think last year for me, I was just trying to fly through books and see how many books I could read. It was really enjoyable, and I think naturally I'm a bit of a skim reader and I can like finish books relatively quickly. I felt like I couldn't even remember a lot of the details, and even reflecting back on this video, I was like, what was this? Like, why did I rate this book 4 stars? Two things with that is I probably need to take more notes while I'm reading so I do remember. Two, I think I just want to enjoy it a little bit more and go a bit slower with my reading and not be in such a rush to get to my reading goal or just like rush to the next book. Number two, I want to read more out of my comfort zone. As I was saying, I definitely want to read more fantasy, dystopian, even more in like the magic space. It was really fun. I feel like I usually just stick with either rom-com or mystery thriller. Number three is read more without reading reviews. I am such a classic of looking up a book and going on Goodreads straight away and like seeing what people have rated it and what they say about it. I think it's really helpful, especially saving time. Like, I guess you don't want to start a book if you're not going to enjoy it, so reviews are definitely helpful. But I think this year I'd like to just go in more with like reading the back of the book, it sounding interesting, and just reading it for myself. Number four, I'd like to read a complete series. Number five, I would like to read more from the 1990s or older. I read a few books, I think the year before, that were based maybe in the 90s or in the early 2000s, and it really felt like I was putting on like a cozy 90s rom-com movie. It gave me that same feel, I think, because I don't know, there wasn't like social media talk or I don't know, like iPhones or anything like that. Something about it gave me that same like nostalgic feeling. So I would really like to read more. Like 90s isn't even that old, but 90s or older, not just like new releases or from like the last few years. Okay, so that is my reading recap. Again, sorry it's a bit late, but I know a lot of you guys also love to read, and I thought it'd be fun to just do a little recap. Yeah, it was a really fun reading year for me, and I'm excited to see what new books I read and fall in love with this year. If you have any that you think I would just love based on all of those rankings, let me know down below. Yeah, love you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.